Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Yin. I've let everyone know, and this is just a reminder, there'll be no class next week, just having 1 week break. So no class on the 5th of March, and we'll be back the following week on the 12th of March. Okay, so let's head into the practice. We're going to start with butterfly pose tonight. So sitting up on your square cushion, giving yourself some height. And for butterfly pose, we bring the soles of our feet together. So we make a diamond shape in between our legs. Making sure your sit bones are nicely grounded. And for the full pose, we come forward. So flexing, rounding through your spine. So there's a few options here. If it's feeling too much for your knees or for your hips, could place a couple of blocks underneath your knees. Just adjust your legs so that your knees are resting on the blocks. You might also like to fold yourself onto a bolster. Rest it on your legs further away. I've got it down towards my feet. Or if you bring it in towards your torso, this will give you more flexion, more rounding through your spine. So there's some options. You can always come up with your own supported options in the class. So once you've found your comfortable place in butterfly, let's tune into our breath. Just noticing the natural rhythm of your breath. And you can start to invite a sense of gradual softening as you exhale. And you start to tune into your body, as we all do. We may become aware of any areas where we hold or feel a little bit of tension. And can use your breath to soften those areas. Or perhaps you may need to move a little bit as time has gone on in the pose, so that you're always in connection with your edge. A place where you're feeling something. So here it could be through your hips, your spine, perhaps even your knees. It's important if you do experience any pain, any sharp stabbing sensation, or even too much sensation, that you come out of the pose. I like to skip the pose or try a more supported option. So you're being kind to your body throughout the practice. And let's take 2 more breaths here. in your own time. And then we're going to very slowly start to roll up through our spine, so as though you're coming up one vertebrae at a time. Then up to the top and pausing. And then I like to move your props. You can take your legs out, lean back on your hands, or you could bend into your knees and do a windshield wiper. Seeing if you feel like you need to just go into stillness or if you want a little bit of movement. And if you are doing a bit of movement, when you've finished taking your legs out, or you may like to bend your knees and rest your arms over your knees. And let's take a deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth with an ah. So noticing that sense of release. Release through the fascia, connective tissue, the body that we're working through the longer held yin poses. And let's do one more, a deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth with an ah. And now releasing our hands and staying sitting on your cushion. And let's take our legs out wider this time. So we're coming into straddle pose. So noticing if you have a tendency to round through your lower back, you may like to give yourself some more height with another cushion. And then coming forward, so you can bend slightly through your knees. Coming forward once again. So you can use some blocks underneath your knees if it's feeling too much for your hamstrings. Or you could have a bolster out in front and rest your elbows, your arms onto the bolster. Even place a block on top of the bolster if you have another one, and rest your forehead on the block. And tuning back into the natural rhythm of your breath. Noticing your edge, how your inner thighs are feeling, your hamstrings. Making any small adjustments to stay in connection with your edge. Also tune into sensations. So sensations other than your breath could be sensations of warmth or cool in various parts of your body. Gentle pulsation in your heartbeat. Or anything else you notice. Use your breath and sensations to anchor yourself here in the present moment. You may also notice thoughts. That's what the mind does. We all, this constant stream of thinking. And here in the stillness of Yin, we can take some space from those thoughts by just observing them. You're guiding yourself back to your breath or to sensation. So we're inviting ourselves to leave what's been today and the week, or what's to come or in the future. Just coming right here into the present moment. And let's take 2 more breaths here in your own time. And then once again, slowly rolling up. Vertebrae by vertebrae, coming up to sitting. And then releasing your any props and taking your legs out in front. And let's do our windshield wiper. Placing your feet on the ground, bending into your knees and dropping one knee into the center at a time. Let's take our legs out in front, or you can lean over your legs just to feel the full effect of the rebound. So taking a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth with an ah. And let's do one more. A deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth with an ah. Just supporting that energy to release, flow. Now let's leave the rebound. And from here, we're going to head into a toe squat, then into a squat, and then into a dangling position. So there's 3 poses in this sequence. So with the toe squat, I'm going to give you an option tonight to add a shoulder stretch into the toe squat. So if this doesn't feel right for you, you just do a normal toe squat. But finding a wall, so coming up against a wall, and make sure you've got some padding underneath your knees. So we're coming side on to the wall, and so I'm doing my left side first, left shoulder to the wall, if you're able to follow along there. And coming to your version of toe squat, so this is option 1. You could also place a couple of blocks in between your pelvis to rest on, in between your legs, or you could simply sit back towards your heels. So from here, we're going to add a twist against the wall. So I have my left shoulder to the wall, and then from here, taking 2 hands up against the wall, So go cautiously with this one. And looking towards the wall, noticing how that feels. If it feels too much for you, just come back to the regular toe squat. If you feel like you can go a little bit further and open your left shoulder a little bit more, you can take your left hand out long against the wall. And keep your elbow bent, or you could straighten it out. So we're stressing here into the shoulder, just noticing how that feels for you. We won't be here much longer because we're going to turn and do the other side. And now releasing your hands, untucking your toes and turning around the other way. Going back into toe squat. And of course, if it feels too much, you've had enough in toe squat, feel free to rest into child's pose. So from here, once you're in toe squat with your right shoulder against the wall, or up, it doesn't have to be right against the wall, just where it's comfortable, place your hands and twist to the right. Noticing how it feels for your right shoulder. And if you're working deeper, taking your right arm out, long on the wall. Just to deepen that stretch. And coming back to your breath. Now releasing your hand back in and turning back to the front and coming away from the wall, and let's just rest down in child's pose for just a moment. Taking your buttocks towards your heels, just in your version of child's pose. You may like to take a sigh as you land on your mat. Just doing that in your own time. This is just a mini rest, so slowly coming back up. And from here, coming into a squat. So you could come straight up onto your feet, or you could sit onto a cushion and bring your feet closer in and lift your buttocks from there. Or any other way is okay. So can bring your hands either in between your knees or outside your knees, wherever it feels comfortable, and hands to prayer in the center. If you find your heels are off the ground and it's feeling a little bit uncomfortable, you could use a couple of blocks to place underneath your heels or some padding to rest them on. And if none of this is working for your hips, you could also bring your your knees together. Knees are together here. Feet together and wrap your arms around your knees. And release your heels down if that's comfortable. So wherever you are working, let's take 3 more deep breaths here. just in your own time. And when you've finished, we're going to lift up through our hips and come into dangling position. So you might like to put your fists down to the floor, bring your feet about hip width apart, and lift up your buttocks. So you can leave your knees slightly bent. If you do have high blood pressure, you may need to avoid this pose and come into a sitting caterpillar pose. You can rest on your knees here, your legs bent. We could start to straighten them so you feel that edge down the back of your hamstrings. So we're going to do 2 rounds of this, so 1 more squat and dangling after this. So you may like to drop your head down. We'll see how that feels. And now let's release back down to your squat, buttocks dropping down to the ground, adjust your feet. So you get that right position for your hips. And tune back into your breath. You may also notice any sensations in your legs, feet. It's feeling the connection of your feet to the earth, to the ground. Now let's come up to dangling 1 more time. Fist to the ground, feet hip width apart. And you can rest onto your knees, lifting up through your hips. Or if it's comfortable, you can allow your arms to hang. You could hang on at your elbows. Or perhaps hands are on the ground. The idea is to soften through your back, through your neck, through your head. Adjust with what you're comfortable with. You can always come back up to your knees if that feels more supported. Maybe like to give your arms a little jiggle, your shoulders. And then let's drop our buttocks down to the ground, going back down into squat. And let's release back down onto a cushion. I'd like to take your legs out long or do a windshield wiper. See what you feel. Do you need stillness or a little bit of movement? So if you are doing movement, finding stillness again. And let's take a deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth with an ah. Noticing any sensations in your legs, feet. Let's do one more. A deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth. And then And now leaving the rebound. And from here, we're going to come into melting heart pose. So if you're familiar with melting heart, head on in at your own pace. Otherwise, I will give you some options. So for melting heart, we start by coming into a floor pointed kneeling position. Our knees underneath our hips and wrists underneath our shoulders. For the full melting heart, we crawl our hands forward, leaving our hips above our knees. You take your hands a little bit wider and you drop our forehead to the mat. If you have any issues in your neck or you feel like you need some support, you can use some support underneath your head. And in this position, if it's feeling a little bit too much for your shoulders or you experience any tingling in your hands or fingertips, important to come out of the pose. And you could try bending into your elbows and placing your head on top of your hands. And a final option, if you're finding it a little bit too much for your lower back, there's too much compression, you could try resting your arms on top of the bolster. And finding that edge, noticing where you're feeling it, into your shoulders or arms. You can always take your arms out wider or bring them closer in. Just tuning into your breath, into the sensations in your body. Listening to what your body is telling you, any signals, making any adjustments or coming out as you need to. Softening as you exhale. Let's take 3 more breaths here, just in your own time. And then bringing yourself back up to a 4-pointed position. And from here, going to rest back into child's pose. Feel free if you need to do any other bit of movement. Otherwise, holding back into child's pose. You could also, for child's pose, Take your arms behind you as a counter pose. We just had our arms stretched long. Well, if this feels right for you, take them there. And let's take a deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth with an ah. Now let's slowly come back up. Coming back up. And from here, tonight we're going to explore a half saddle pose. We've quite frequently done this lying down, but tonight we're going to try it sitting up and then possibly leaning back on a bolster. So I'll give you those options first. And if those don't work for you, then I'll demonstrate the lying down one that we've usually done. Okay, so start by taking your bolster up one end of your mat. We're going to prop it up at one end. So with a couple of blocks here to make a nice sturdy support. And then from there, you may like to place some padding, a cushion at one end of your bolster. We're going to be lying back and we're going to be working through the lumbar spine, possibly lying back, depending on how you feel. So sitting on your cushion at the end. And so we're doing one leg at a time here. So we'll start by taking our left leg out long. And we're going to bring, our right leg out long. And let's bring our left leg behind us. So see how you go with that. You could try adding more height. So this is a half saddle sitting up. And see how that feels. We're working down the top of our thigh, into our ankles and top of our feet as well. You could also bend into your knee here. So from here, if you feel like this is enough, stay here. You could then try leaning back on your hands a little bit. We're starting to work into the lumbar spine. And you could then perhaps come back onto your elbows or lean right back onto your bolster. So you might have to adjust your buttocks a little bit. So you'll feel that through your lower back. And making any subtle adjustments that you need to. And going cautiously if you have lower back issues. So staying there if that feels comfortable. If it doesn't feel comfortable, coming into the reclined half saddle by removing your bolster. Coming down onto your mat, so onto your back. And windshield wiping your legs. And we're going to drop them over to the right-hand side. You could then take a hold of your left foot. And just, you may like to explore if you're not sure which option is best for you. And so we'll be here for about another minute or so. Tuning into your breath, just coming back up into the option using the bolster now, staying where you are. Noticing if you need to make any subtle adjustments or movements of your buttocks, the left leg or your right leg. Perhaps it's more comfortable with your right knee bent. And now let's take 2 more breaths, just in your own time. And then we're going to start to come back up. So many students find this a bit tricky coming back up. So go cautiously. So an option is to simply come back up the way you went down. So you need to make sure you're activating your core as you come up. Come onto your elbows and lift all the way up. Or perhaps you can simply release your leg without bringing your torso back up. And we're going to just swap over to the other side. So if we take our left leg out long, take our right leg behind. And if you're doing the lying down flat on your mat, windshield wiping your legs over to the other side. So you can lean back on your hands here if you're working with the bolster. Noticing how this feels. So one side may be very different to the other. You could also bend into your knee, place your left foot flat on the floor. And that might be enough. But if it feels like you can go a bit deeper, then back down onto your bolster. So with your right foot, you can have the top of your foot behind you, or perhaps even your foot goes out to the side, depending which is more comfortable for your right ankle. So we're working through our lumbar spine and through our right hip flexor and down the top of the right thigh. If you're doing the windshield wiper version lying down, you take a hold of your right foot and bring it back towards your right hip. You're just noticing what you can feel. Coming out whenever you need to. You have about another 30 seconds. And now starting to make your way out of the pose. So you may like to come out the way you came in. And coming up onto your elbows. Coming up to sitting and releasing your right leg, or you may simply like to release your right leg. And then let's remove our props to one side. We're going to lie down on our backs if you're not already there. So let's just lie out long for a moment in stillness, just for a moment. And let's take a deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth with an ah. Now, if you feel like you need to, could do a little bit of movement. So bending into your knees, you could do a windshield wiper, lying down, or perhaps you feel like you need to bring your knees into your chest. Anything else? Good rock. Gently massage out your lower back. And then let's take our legs out long, just for a moment again. And let's take a deep breath in through our nose and out through our mouth with an ah. Feeling the whole weight of your body around on the mat. And from here, we're going to move into a spinal twist, lying down. So if you have your preferred version, head on in. Otherwise, bringing your knees into your chest and taking your arms out to the sides at shoulder height. And let's drop our knees over to the right to start with, shuffling your hips to the left. You can use a prop, so a bolster or some other support underneath your knees here. And checking that your left shoulder blade is resting on your mat. And I also like to cactus your arms by bending into your elbows. If your neck is okay, you could also look over to your left. And you can always adjust the depth of the twist by shifting your knees either closer towards your torso or further away. You can play around with that and see what feels right for you. If you're looking for a deeper twist, you can head into twisted roots by bringing your knees back to the center and crossing your left knee over your right and tucking your left foot underneath your right calf if it goes there, and then dropping your knees over to the right. Shuffle your hips. You can still use a bolster to rest your knees on if need be. Wherever you are, softening with your breath. We've reached the ground. We're lying down for the rest of the class. You may like to invite a sense of peace into your being. And if you felt like it, if it felt right for you, you're in the right space to draw it in, that sense of peace for yourself. And also to have a sense of sending it out, sending that energy out. Perhaps it's simply to the earth or to someone specific, to a group. So it's peace for yourself and for others. And let's take 2 more breaths here, just in your own time. And then bringing your knees back to the center. Releasing your feet flat on the floor. If you feel like you need to do a little bit of movement or pause before heading to the other side, feel free to do that. And when you're ready, taking your twist on the other side, bringing your knees into your chest, arms out at shoulder height, and dropping our knees over to the left this time. Shuffling your hips to find that nice juicy edge. Look over to your right, if your neck feels okay. Cactus your arms. And also bring your arms down by your sides if that feels better. Use any bolster support underneath your knees. And you can settle right into your twist. I like to connect back into that energy of peace, either just for yourself and others. And if you're working a bit deeper into twisted roots, take yourself there. Bring your knees back to the center and cross your right leg over your left. Take your left foot underneath your your right foot underneath your left calf, if it goes there. And drop your knees over to the left. Shuffling your hips, using a bolster to find that Goldilocks position. Tuning back into peace if you're working there. Staying connected with your breath and with your intention, if you're using your intention. And a very powerful practice to work with intention and to work with the energy of peace. Useful when we feel like we can't do anything. We can always invite peace into our being and send it out to others. So noticing if your mind has wandered as we're entering into more stillness. Just guide yourself back. So you are still present. And you may be feeling restful and present. Or perhaps just a bit more restful than when we began. That's perfectly okay. We'll all go at our own pace in the practice. And now let's bring our knees back to the center. And your hips back to the center. You may like to bring your knees into your chest. Wrap your arms around your knees and gently rock, just to massage your lower back or any other movements you feel you need. And now setting yourself up for our final pose of Shavasana. So you may like to simply take your legs out long. You may like to keep your knees bent and place your feet flat on the floor. Or you could place a bolster support, so underneath your knees. We'll be lying for a bit under 5 minutes. And making sure you are completely comfortable. I will guide you in a body awareness relaxation practice. If it does not feel right for you, please just allow my words to wash over you. Starting by bringing your awareness to your feet. Your feet on both sides. And softening your feet and your ankles. Soften. And resting your awareness now at your heels, the sensation of your heels in contact with the ground. And shifting your awareness to your lower legs and softening to your knees, softening through your knees and through your thighs. And then noticing any part of the backs of your legs touching your mat. Bringing your awareness to your buttocks and softening your buttocks base of your body, your pelvic bowl, your hips, and noticing your buttocks in contact with the mat. Now shifting your awareness up your torso. So the front of your torso, your lower back, and softening all the way up to your rib cage, middle of your back, your upper back, through your chest, softening your shoulders and your shoulder blades, feeling your shoulder blades touching your mat. Softening down your upper arms, your elbows, lower arms, wrists, hands, and all the way down to your fingertips. Noticing backs of your hands and any other part of the back of your arms in contact with the ground. Feeling that sensation. Shifting your awareness to your neck and your throat and softening. Softening your jaw, your whole face. Exploring where you may be holding any tension and softening. To the sides of your head and your ears, softening, and the top of your head, finishing at softening the back of your head. Now noticing your whole body and the parts of your body that are touching your mat. So you are grounded on your mat. Just resting here for a moment. Now let's slowly start to bring some movement to our fingers, to our toes. You like to stretch out in any way. Take your arms above your head if you like. Point your toes, stretch your legs. And then roll to one side. Rest, pause here for a moment. And use the support of your arms. Let's come back up to a sitting position. And let's bring our hands, once you arrive, into prayer at our heart center. Let's bow our head towards our heart. We're just taking a moment here to honor yourself, for giving yourself the nourishing practice of Yin Yoga, the opportunity to practice stillness. And let's honor others, so each other. We're practicing in the group this week. And let's honor our sacred earth, the earth which we all share. It gives us ground for our experience of life. And together, let's say Namaste. Namaste. The practice tonight was beneficial for you in some way. If you have any questions or concerns, or you need some different options, please do feel free to contact me. And stay cool. We're up for some hot weather again tomorrow in Melbourne. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. So we'll be back on the 12th of March. Okay. Bye for now.